Never forget your why. And I even tell the younger nurses today, it's such a broad field. There's so many areas in nursing, but of course you have to start and do the beginning. But don't give up because there is something in each and every one of us to do. And you have to find your why and just go for it. Just put everything into it, no matter the challenges we face, because we are going to face challenges. And you just try to push past that and go do you have to do. I really encourage these young nurses today.
Welcome to a special Thanksgiving edition of The In Factor, where we highlight the stories, mindsets, and moments that define purpose-driven entrepreneurship. I'm Dr. Rebecca White, and today's guest is a nurse, an author, and an immigrant to the U.S. Her name is Pamela Baptiste, and she brings a story of compassion, perseverance, and giving back to the In Factor today. But before we dive in, I want to share a story of my own. Just earlier this week, I stopped by a local shoe repair shop. The owner, a kind and thoughtful man, began sharing his story with me. Like Pamela, he came to this country to build a better life. He's a skilled craftsman, humble and service-oriented, but during our conversation, he shared some frustration, how some customers treated him as if he didn't matter, rushing in with complaints, overlooking the value of his work. Despite that, he stays focused on his mission to help as many people as he could, to offer kindness and quality in every pair of shoes that he touched. His attitude touched me deeply, and before I left, I gave him a small tip. Not for the sake of the money, but because I wanted him to know that he matters, that his work matters. To my surprise, he actually began to cry. He said I had made his day. That moment stayed with me and reminded me just how often we overlook the people who quietly make our lives better. We forget to say thank you. We forget that gratitude is not just something we feel, it's something we express. And that brings us to today's guest. Pamela Baptiste is a shining example of what it looks like to live a life of gratitude in action. After arriving in the U.S., she built a career in oncology nursing, one of the most emotionally demanding professions there is. Her life's work is centered on caring for others at their most vulnerable moments. And now she's written a memoir-style book designed to encourage and guide other nurses on their journey. Her story is one of quiet strength, of service, and of generosity, not just through her work, but through her writing and her willingness to mentor and uplift others. So here's your mindset moment for today. Gratitude isn't passive, it's powerful. When we take the time to see the people around us, acknowledge their value, and to give back in whatever way we can, we participate in that cycle of meaning. And that's exactly what Pamela's story teaches us. So on this Thanksgiving Day, as we gather with friends and family, I invite you to reflect on the unseen hands and hearts that support your world, and to join me in listening to this heartfelt conversation with Pamela Baptiste. Welcome to the In Factor, Pamela. So glad that you could join me today.
I am happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
Of course, of course. Well, it's taken us a few months, but I met you several months ago at a nursing conference, and we were surrounded by nurses who wanted to be in business and were combining their passion for patient care with with business. And it was so exciting to me. And I met you, I think maybe during a break or lunch. And I was
Yes.
very intrigued by your story. And I'm so glad that you agreed to share it with us today.
Yes, sure.
So, Pamela, you've been an RN for a pretty long time. I think you were at Memorial Sloan
Yes.
before you came to Moffit Cancer Center, which is where you are now in Tampa, Florida.
Yes.
And tell us a little bit about your background. You've worked as a nurse for a long time, and I know you work with cancer patients. So tell us a little bit about what brought you into the nursing field, and a little bit about the work that you do.
Yes, I always wanted to be a nurse, especially when my mom took me to the doctors and I saw the nurses and how they operated. I always admired them. And I would also play nurse at home. Even when I was in high school, my friends and I would always discuss our future careers. And I mentioned nursing, and they said, I think you'll make a great nurse. That really planted a seed in me that I had to research it. And I did, even studying human biology, that really connected the dots that I had to really look into this and move on into nursing. But it just lighted something in me, and I pursued that.
Well, that's pretty exciting. And so, where were you born? You were born in New York, I think.
I was born in the Caribbean, in Trinidad.
Oh, that's right. Yes.
Yes. I came here many years ago with my daughter who was a baby and started working and started finding my way into nursing school. So I started my nursing career here
In Tampa or in the United?
in America, in New York.
Okay.
Yes. While I was working, I was in school, so I worked full time and went to school full time. And I landed a job at Memorial Sloan Kettering Cancer Center, where I worked for about 22 years. I went on to bone marrow transplant, and not that I chose that, but I landed there and I was very passionate about it.
That
Yes.
I'm sure you feel there's probably a lot of rewards from helping patients, and especially in the bone marrow transplant area.
Yes, there are many stories that have touched me. We have seen good outcomes, and we have also seen, of course, sad outcomes. One particular instance sticks out with me, no matter where I go, even coming to Tampa. I cared for a young girl that was having a bone marrow transplant, and she was not American. She came here to start a life, and it happened to her very early in her transition. And they were very scared, of course. So I was able to provide some support and really be there for them in areas where they felt really down, where they were really vulnerable, to try to reassure them that they're in the right place.
Yeah, that's a very special gift, I think. And I think we all owe a lot to nurses that have helped us and our family members through very difficult times. And on this podcast, we talk a lot about seeing opportunities, and so taking those opportunities and acting on them and having resilience. And as I think about your story, you came from the Caribbean. What was that? What was it like? What was as you grew up, what do you think about the environment and the childhood maybe that you had that had an impact on the choices you made? Because we see that a lot of times with people with an entrepreneurial mindset. They've been affected by their childhood, and there's something there that makes a difference in who they become.
Just looking at my parents, how hard they worked. And I remember we had grew our own vegetables, had our own poultry, and they were sold to the neighborhood. It was sort of a little business for the family. And that built something in me. And I think it always sticks out the way my parents did nurture us, the way they taught us how to uh, build certain things, how to maneuver life and to get by. And that was very important to them. And we knew we had to do that. At the same time, education was very important. So we had to just do it all.
So, what you're talking about here, I think, is about being creative and something in entrepreneurship we often call bootstrapping, getting by on limited resources and,
Yes.
and learning that. And, it's interesting because I've heard that story a lot from a lot of successful people that they learned even as children how to bootstrap and that bootstrap and being creative. And my guess is living on an island. Which of the islands did you grow up on?
Trinidad.
Trinidad. So
Yes.
growing up on an island is very different. And I'm sure you probably had to be very creative with the way that you did everything.
Yes, we had to be creative, especially with my parents, trying to make ends meet and I mean, it was five kids and reinforcing certain things in us. We had a very regimented life that each day things were different and we just had to obey those rules and go along with it. And now that I look back, I am so grateful to how they raised us because I can see how those things stick with me and it built so much resilience in me.
Yeah.
Yes.
Absolutely. And as I think about your story coming to America, bringing your daughter, you said your daughter, I think,
Yes.
your daughter, and being a student and working and raising a daughter, I'm sure that was very challenging, but built that strength, that inner strength, and that resilience. And I'm sure it served you well. So, nurses, I've seen a lot of nurses and I've been to a number of conferences with nurses, and there seem to be a lot of nurses today that are very interested in entrepreneurship. Why do you think that's the case?
Think that's the case because I feel the way we are growing in technology, the way we are becoming so innovative in different ways in the healthcare industry. I think it's pushing nurses to be entrepreneurs. I think after the pandemic, we have learned to practice and serve differently. And that has opened up many doors. And I feel the way things have changed, it's really pushing us to becoming entrepreneurs.
Do you feel like it's really helpful to have an entrepreneurial mindset in the nursing in your day-to-day work as a nurse? I mean, does that come in handy and helpful?
It does because you have a broad mindset and not just about the being an entrepreneur, but also about how you maneuver healthcare. And I think that it opens up doors for entrepreneurs. Right now, when I look at how many people are dealing with cancer and cancer treatments, and we're constantly busy, I think other areas would be so helpful for patients. So I think entrepreneurship is really important today.
When you say other areas would be helpful, what are some of the things that you're thinking about that might be helpful?
I think supporting some of the patients even as an entrepreneur on the outside, being able to just deal not with the disease, but their spiritual and mental mindset, because it's so much to deal with. It's not just the treatment. It's not a quick fix. It affects your whole life and even your family life. So I think there is such a need, and sometimes the healthcare institution is not even able to accommodate as much as, the patients would want.
Mhm.
Yes.
Yeah, I know fortunately, I've not had to go through cancer treatment, but just generally as someone who uses healthcare, as we all do, hopefully, if we have the means to do so, it's very frustrating to have to wait months sometimes to see a doctor or to get the treatment that you need. And as you said, sometimes uh, the patients helping the patient's family and helping them through challenging the patient themselves through challenging times is just not it's missing in the healthcare industry. And
Yes.
it's interesting because I always tell my students at the university that if you want to find an opportunity, look where there's a problem. And, there are a lot of wonderful nurses, a lot of wonderful doctors, a lot of wonderful people in the healthcare system. But I think clearly we know that there are many places the system is broken and that there is an opportunity. There are lots of opportunities there. And it was exciting to see all these nurses at the conference that we both attended thinking about
Yes.
how they could go beyond what they were doing already to serve patients, to do it in a more meaningful or even deeper way that, like you talked about. So,
Yes. I feel once you're an entrepreneur and you have uh, patients coming in, you make that personal connection. You make that, and patients need that.
yes,
They really do need that. And that's one of the things I feel, even with Moffit, they try, and we try as a healthcare institution to really provide that attention. And it's very broad. There's so many different areas, but we try to sit and listen, not just to rush and treat, but you really want to listen to the patient, give them that time, because it gives them that reassurance, that satisfaction. They can go away feeling at ease.
yes, yes.
Yes.
Uh, Pamela, you've written a book and it's The
Yes.
Flame Within. So you have
Yes.
become an author entrepreneur. And that's one of the main reasons that we're having you on the show today. So
Yes.
I'm very excited. I want to know a little bit if our audience that's listening out there would like to pick up your book. What's the one thing that you would want them to know about this book that you know might might help them understand your purpose and mission with the book?
Well, my book, books have always played a role in my life, and my book is about my nursing journey. And readers can expect honest reflection, tools for reigniting and sparking their interest if they're interested in nursing. Not only nursing, there are other areas in healthcare, but never forget your why. And I even tell the younger nurses today, it's such a broad field. There's so many areas in nursing, but of course you have to start and do the beginning. But don't give up, because there is something in each and every one of us to do. And you have to find your why and just go for it. just put everything into it, no matter the challenges we face, because we are going to face challenges. And you just try to push past that and go do just you have to do. I really encourage these young nurses today.
I
Yes.
love that. It aligns a lot with my book and the entrepreneurial mindset, seeing opportunities, taking action, and executing past failure. And it's really about that's what you're saying. If you once you
Yes.
find that flame, as the title of your book is The Flame Within, right? And so
Yes.
once you find that fire, you have to do. That's what you said. You have to take action, right?
You must. Yes.
And then you have to push through all the hard things. And
You have to push through all the hard things. Nothing comes easy. All the rewards at the end of it, the end of your goal, you are so rewarded and it pushes you to go on further.
yeah, yeah.
Yes.
So
Yes.
I want to talk a little bit about the whole entrepreneurial side of publishing a book, because I think some of our listeners may have never done that and they'd be very interested in learning a little bit about your journey. I know for me, it was an interesting journey. I had written for the academic world, but when I decided I wanted to write for a broader audience, I had to learn a lot about publishing to that audience. So tell us a little about your journey. What kind of led you to write this book? When did you write it? How long did it take to write it? And how did you figure out how to write your book? How did you get started?
It started because at this point in my career, I have just transitioning from the Caribbean, Trinidad, and coming to New York, building a life, getting into nursing, going through nursing school with all the challenges, and landing my job, feeling so rewarded, and then coming to Florida here. I think this was the time for me to do it. I had experience enough. I had so I had so many challenges, but I pushed past them. And I always kept my eye on that goal because it's that flame within me, that passion that I wanted to just keep on doing. And even today, I say it. I go to work. Yes, I'm tired, but I love what I do. I love caring for my patients. And I decided to do this book, and I was encouraged by a publisher, Your Voice Publishing Company. She helped me to put this through. And I just started writing, and it took me about a year. And I had to sit and think back and do some deep reflections from my beginning. And that helped me. And the more I started reflecting, the more will come to me. And I would write. That's what I did. And I said, you know what? I have a timeline. I need to write this book uh before the end of the year. And I completed it in October.
I've often, I know that someone said this quote. I don't know who to attribute it to, but it's pretty much, in general that anything worth doing, it's seldom a solitary, endeavor. And so even, most entrepreneurs say that even though they're the face, and maybe even the creator in this case of the product or the outcome, they usually know and recognize that there are a lot of others along the way that help them. So I'm curious, Your Voice Publishing was your publisher. And so how did you find your publisher, or did they find you? How did that work?
We are in a spiritual group together, and that's how we connected. That's where we meet and do our Bible studies, and that's how we connected. And I even been to conferences with her, Christian conferences, and yeah, she spoke about her publishing company, and she encouraged me to write about my story also. So that was a real connection. Yes.
So I just have to ask you, you mentioned in your story that you went through a lot of changes and a lot of transitions. What kept you going through those changes? What did you do at the times, and did you ever feel like giving up?
There were times I felt like giving up, but I have to say, my faith, seeking encouragement from the supportive ones around me, my friends and different colleagues, that kept me. And that flame within, that passion, when you really want something, it keeps you going. Even though you're faced with challenges, you know that this is what I want, and I just have to go get it in spite of the obstacles along the way. And that kept me. My spiritual faith, that really kept me. I know that without God, I couldn't do this at all. Without the people he sent into my life, I couldn't do this.
You know, it's really interesting because the um, the the stories and the messages and the experiences that I've had and learned about everybody going through these major changes in their lives is that there's usually a reason, a group of people, a faith, something that keeps them going, and I think that's your story as well. So, with your book, one of the big challenges for book authors is marketing. So, tell me about your how have you marketed and how are you getting the word out about your book?
I have marketed on LinkedIn. I have done some postings there, portraying the book, encouraging people to go read the book. And you can find the book on Amazon.com. That's where it's sold. And yeah, with work and my family life, sometimes it's a little limiting to really go out there and publish it.
So, Pamela, it's very exciting to hear your story, to hear about what you've done, to see you move from or add on to your amazing career as a nurse to being an author and a book publisher. And I know that our readers are going to want to go out and get your book and learn more about your story. It sounds very inspiring. But, I always ask my listeners before they leave if they had one piece of advice for someone listening that wants to, in this case, be a book author, let's say, and become a book entrepreneur or an author entrepreneur, what would that be? What would that one piece of advice be that you would give them?
That one piece of advice would be never lose sight of your why. If you remember the reason you chose this path, and you can keep the passion and purpose at the center, you'll be able to weather the storm. So be kind to yourself. Surround yourself with positive influences and know the challenges. Build resilience. Yes, the world truly needs compassion. So never be afraid to let your light shine. Be strong and keep that flame burning.
I love that. That's great advice, and I think I'm sure if we get your book, The Flame Within, we'll hear a lot of your story and be inspired to do just that. So, Pamela, this has been great. I've really enjoyed it. Where can our listeners find your book and find out more about your book and connect with you?
They can find out more about my book on Amazon.com, The Flame Within, and they can connect with me on LinkedIn. Yes, I'm on LinkedIn and I am on there every now and then. I'm always listening to your podcast, Dr. White, and all the different stories also. So that's a way to connect with me.
Thank you, Pamela. Pamela Baptiste, it's been wonderful to have you on the show. And I look forward to sharing your story and to sharing your book with our audience. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for joining me today on this Thanksgiving edition of The In Factor. If Pamela's story of service, resilience, and giving back spoke to you, I hope you'll share this story with someone you're grateful for or someone you believe could use a reminder that their journey matters. If you haven't already, follow us on Instagram and connect with me on LinkedIn so you don't miss any of our upcoming content. And please check out my website at Dr. Rebecca White. That's drRebeccaWhite.com for books and resources to deepen your entrepreneurial mindset and mission. May your Thanksgiving be filled not just with gratitude, but also with generosity. May you give a little of yourself, and in doing so, feel the joy of receiving as well. Until next time, keep giving, keep growing, and keep choosing yourself.